Alright, so this is some narration over some older content that I released on Snapchat. Since we're doing some more long form content, I figured I'd go ahead and put a short video together of some of the stuff I did. And this is the last look at it before we did the drop. And at this point, we're pulling it in the garage and devising a way to lift this bed up off the chassis so we can get in there and do some work. So what I did is I made this little dolly so that way we can lift the bed off it as such, and then we'll place it on that dolly and get it out of the way, and then pull the truck back in. That way we can access the frame so we can do the C-notch, and then I did some rear disc brake work and some other stuff. Got it back in there and removed the front end off of it. That way we can easily access the control arms and everything else. This core support I pulled off of a 84 because I like the quad headlights instead of the singles. So I cleaned it up, got it prepped and ready for paint, and then just some before and after pictures of the rear and the front of the chassis before we do anything else. Little quickie video just to show me cleaning the threads on these dudes. Feel weird now because I turned off the music, so that way when I go to post this on Facebook, dang Facebook police don't throw a fit. Good as new. If I get you a focus. Oh, come on now. How about we do that? There we go. Way gooder. This is just a little bit more showing the detailed work. Finally painted the core support and got it churched up. Just used a little bit of rebuild in a can. Got some cheap headlights and front components off of Amazon. Got it all mounted up. Figuring out where we're going to put stuff. Here's where I started to remove the exhaust. This side was fairly easy. I was actually kind of surprised how easy it came off and not had any leaks. But on this side, we ended up with a broken bolt. Well, first it was stuck, and then I decided to complain about it being stuck and need an extractor kit. So I went and bought one, not realizing I had already had one in my toolbox. But finally tried to break that dude off, and sure enough it sheared, so I had to drill it. And then of course I misdrilled it, so then I had to chain drill it, which is where you just use a smaller drill bit and drill it in a different spot so you can split the difference and then fish both halves out of it. It works fairly good, but you run the risk into losing some of your threads, but we were able to save it. So the kit for the old yellow truck showed up. Ordered it the 15th of December. Here it is 15 days later. And all showed up, packaged pretty well, ready to go, except for drop spindles. Those alone are about half the price of the kit, and now I get to figure out why they didn't show up. Here I'm showing what I had purchased. I purchased them from Switch Suspension and end up finding out that they used a separate service for their complaints and customer service. So you got to go through them in order to get any information out, and it just turned into nothing but a mess.
That's all of what I've received. I think they're missing.
At this point, we just went ahead and pressed forward, had to cut the U-bolts off. I was able to salvage the leaf spring hardware and the shock mounts, but it was all kind of a pain in the butt. Went ahead and made the cut in the frame for the C-notch, just mocking everything up so I could transfer punch and then drill out the holes for the hardware.
Now, I'm kind of one of those guys that, for some reason, doesn't like to throw stuff away and becomes a little bit of a pack rat, but I digress. Decided to keep one of those Dom Platinum Easy Squeeze containers. Why? Because you never know. Might need to apply some oil whenever you do some drilling or whatnot. I'm sure that'll do the trick just right.
Finally got all the hardware in. Here we did the other side. Decided to go ahead and replace all the bushings and clean up the springs. At this point I was pretty frustrated because I had already dealt with all of the crap I did with getting the drop spindles finally sent, but I ended up having to modify this mount in order to get everything to work. Finally got it all mounted up. There's the drop spindles after they arrived. One of them was beat up a little bit, but nothing too crazy.
Got my disc brake swap parts in today. Kind of hard not to call into work so I can work on this, but had some people asking for updates and whatnot on it. I may do a short video on doing the swap, but we'll see. Alright, so swapping this over, you got to pull the whole hub assembly, press off the drum, and while I'm in here I'm redoing the bearings and the seals. But once that's all removed, I've already put the hub back on it on this one, but pop on that bracket, went ahead and pressed the studs back in on this one, put the seal, bearings, all that good stuff, and then the rotor will slide right on and the caliper bolt on, and I'll swap over the lines as needed, but it's coming along. Even though this isn't going to be a show truck, I get picky about little stuff, and whenever these calipers had showed up, they had some of this old casting that's really rough, and then this lip which is really thin, and I don't want that to possibly break off, so going in with a grinder and knocking that down and smoothing that out. Again, it's going to have no real performance or anything, and nobody's really ever going to see it, but it's going to bother me.
At this point, I realize I messed up and misspoke. That rotor actually gets mounted to the inside, so I have to take the lugs out and press them back in with the caliper on the other side. And I also realized that my bleeder screw was on the wrong side, so I had to flip them, but I did that at a different time.
So decided to finally move my attention to this rear end. This bolt decided to break, so finally got it extracted and I ended up having to go to drill tap size again on this one, just like the headers, or the header, I should say. So got that all cleaned up, getting ready to start removing the diff, and I've got to mark these sides, which I did by just dimpling the tops of them, because they have to be like that because of the way it's machined. But anyways, still got the brake lines to make and run, and then I realized my exhaust is going to go right through my cross member, so I'm either going to dump it right before it and say screw it, or I'll end up making a custom cross member.
The whole reason I decided to tear into this rear end was the pinion bearings were shot, and so instead of just replacing just the bearings, I decided to go ahead and do a change in gear, and then also do a different differential. Here we're checking the mesh pattern between the ring and pinion gear. On this side, you actually want, which is the coast side, you actually want that pattern to sit in the middle between your root and the top of the tooth. And then on the drive side, which is the other side, you want your pattern to sit more towards the center of both the top and bottom of your teeth and in the middle of the gear itself. And it looks like we did a pretty good job of getting it on the first try, and that's where I ended up leaving it. We actually ended up with a good amount of lash as well, so I just had to torque down those bolts, and then everything was good to go.
Finally got a makeshift brake line made up. I need to make some more permanent mounts, but not bad for pretty much first time. Got the rear end rust the way together. Brakes are somewhat bled, need to be done a little bit better, but she's starting to look pretty darn good. Still need to do my radiator fans and put the rest of the front end back on, but
At this point, decided to go ahead and address the exhaust. Got a transmission tubular K member off of Amazon and the associated mount. Got it all mounted up. The only issue I ran into is the stock exhaust shield. Made a little notch in it. It was good to go. All my welds ended up looking like crap because my helmet decided to go in and out of working. Need to get a new one, but here I am welding on my V-bank clamps that will attach to the long tubes and then go into an X-pipe and out of the rear foot dumping right before the axle. by far not a professional job, but goes down majority of the center of the truck. Everything's seamed up and welded up besides those last two pipes. I'm still figuring out whether I need to make them jaunt over or if I'm going to put in a couple of more elbows to get them away from the drive shaft, but I think it sounds pretty good so far, I should say. It's on there. Here's the problem you run into if you install a 6/8 drop and run a larger diameter wheel. You'll end up losing your turning radius because your tire will come into contact with the firewall as well as the fender. The only way to really alleviate this is to run a narrowed A-arm. This will bring the tires forward 1 inch and also in 1 inch. Here are the Porterbuilt air arms that I bought. I didn't get the spring mount because they're for bags, so I just made one real quick. And then here are the stock A-arms and the Porterbuilts after I had them powder coated along with the sway bar. A little before and after the alignment. At this point, I went ahead and decided to install some Suburban doors. That way I had electric lock on windows. And here I am just making sure everything works. 2 down, 2 to go. So I got to drive the yellow turd, as Joey calls it, the low blow, which is probably accurate name for it, because while I was driving it yesterday, the oil pressure wasn't exactly like what I would like to it have been, but it was decent enough to keep driving and not be worried about it. But after an oil change, I put a bunch of brake clean in here and like to do what I call panning for gold, and as you see, it's got some nice chunks to it, so the LS swap will probably happen sooner rather than later. Oh well. This is the result of the accident that I spoke about in my last video. It was a crappy night, but it is what it is. Stuff happens. Nobody was hurt, luckily. So now it's just a matter of picking up the pieces and rebuilding it. I'm going to go ahead and close out this video with what it looks like now, but stay tuned. Got another parts truck and we'll see what we can make out of it in the future. So with that, we'll go ahead and close out. that should bring you up to date with stuff that's been done on the truck. Like I said, I've got another parts truck to hopefully combine the two to make a solid one. Stay tuned for the videos, like, subscribe, and leave some comments about what you'd like to see in the future. And thanks for watching.